36 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, back this week after missing last week. The boys held it down. We're back for a quick show, although we do not have a full team again, and I'll go through. I got my normal host with me, Jason Satter.
Hey Tom, what's up?
Jason, we got Jimmy the Chalk with us.
Good evening, Thomas
Good evening. And
and Jason.
unfortunately, we do not have fan favorite Christopher Michael Meeker, but we do have his picks, which is really all that
The most
everybody
important.
here is interested in. Quick rundown of the show. We're gonna recap the Eagles game, which feels like it's been a while since I talked to Eagles because they had that weird scheduling with um, the two games. So, and I missed last week. So we are doing Eagles recap. We'll preview the game against the Panthers. We jotted down some awards, the NFL awards, some of the odds. I don't know if any of them were like locked in stone. So it's a conversation. And then, as always, we'll finish with our picks. So before we get started, as always, our tonight's show is brought to you by Jiv and Nina's Pizza. You tried the rest. Now try the best and still the promotion where every time the Sixers get a win, it is a buy one get one free large pie when you type blow it up in the code. Since that's happened, I think they've only given away one offer so far in the last 2 weeks. How many wins did the Sixers have in the last 2 weeks?
Maybe
Two at most.
two,
I think
two
they
or
got
three. Three,
three.
I
I
think.
think because
Did they get that many so
they're up
far?
to five now. Apparently, yeah.
Total, but since the promotion started, I don't know
I
if they
I,
had.
I think they only had two. I want to say when the promotion started, and they're ahead for now tonight. But that'll probably change.
Yeah, and I think all of our Sixers predictions you could throw out the window. How many games will the three guys play together? Is going to be way under total wins. Looks
Well,
like
we're
it's
not
going
we're
to be.
not even at Christmas. I think Embiid is already ineligible for every award at this point
I
because
saw
he missed.
the what is it, Rick? What's the guy for the Niners? Parcell got shot in the chest
Yeah,
and
Pearsall. Yeah.
and played 5 games so far. Embiid's now only played 4 games, and it's for rest. So put that in perspective. All right, let's jump into Eagles recap. God, probably one of the most impressive Eagles victories in the last. I mean, since the NFC Championship game against San Francisco. I mean, I can't think of one prior. Even during that season, they didn't have a win like I thought they had against the Ravens. Final score was I don't remember. Chalky was the final score.
24-19.
24-19. The Ravens did score kind of a junk touchdown there at the end to make it a little bit closer. But, I mean, it was a pretty dominant Eagles win, maybe not in the first quarter, but from then on it was pretty dominant. Jason, I'll let you take it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go in a different direction than you. I think it was obviously it was a good win because they won at Baltimore, but I don't know how dominant it was. And I'll go over some of my thoughts. So I looked at the yards, and obviously you can't really. Baltimore outgained them 372 to 252, and obviously like 70 yards was that last drive, which was
Right.
all. But they still outgained them. I just thought the Eagles made less mistakes than Baltimore. I thought Jackson was god awful in that game. Like from taking that 14-yard sack, right? Everybody, and I texted you guys, like, I keep hearing how great this guy is. And it just reminds me so much of a Randall Cunningham. It just drives me insane. Like, he takes that 14-yard sack where he keeps running backwards, and then Tucker misses a 47-yard field goal, which obviously he should have hit. But no mention by anyone that your quarterback just took a 14-yard sack and just basically gave away a gimme 3 points and made it a kicker who struggled and have to try to hit a 47-yard field goal, right? Multiple bad throws, like not even like throws that like I don't know how you can't make. I guess I do know how you can't make because he can't throw the ball, which we've all been saying for a long time. But he was awful. Tucker is washed.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
done.
he's done.
Well,
He's done, and
you
that's
get what you deserve when you go in the seasons when your kicker's 60 years old. I mean,
he's gonna cost them. Like that's going to be huge. He's done. He missed 3 kicks, 2 field goals, and an extra point. Um, And again, I think the Eagles made less mistakes. The one thing I want to mention about the run game, because obviously Barkley's a very good player, to a great player when he's healthy. Don't get me wrong. And obviously the offensive line has a lot to do with it, right? What he's doing this year. But I think the threat of Hurts running also opens up the run game for Barkley. So in other words, like when they're
Yeah,
doing that,
but it's the same thing for Henry too. I mean, that's any running back that
it
has
is.
the quarterback who
No,
can run.
I'm not saying it's not, but it is like that threat. We kill Hurts because, and I'll get the Hurts stat, which I think is insane, and I don't think is sustainable. We'll get to that in a second, but when you have that threat of Hurts being able to run on that RPO, that just
Yeah,
helps.
they did it. The broadcast did a good job of highlighting the plays where Hurts. I think it was something earlier where Hurts made the wrong decision.
Hurts made a
But
couple of
then,
wrong decisions.
but
Yeah,
then it opened it up for when there was a play where he gave it to Barkley and they went
yeah,
to Hurts and he picked up big yards and vice
yeah,
versa. Hurts kept it and all. So yeah,
yeah,
no question about it.
yeah. But here's a crazy stat I heard on Hurts. In the last 8 games, Hurts has attempted 21 passes. That's insane. In the fourth
That's the
quarter. In the fourth quarter.
fourth quarter. I was going to say
In
that
the
the
fourth,
average for the
yeah,
game.
I obviously missed a big part of that. But in the fourth quarter,
Well, they
he
haven't
is
had a comeback. They've been leading. I mean, a lot when you're
Yeah.
leading, it's easy.
absolutely. But I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, is that a sustainable stat once you get into the playoffs and are playing better teams? Probably not. You're probably going to have him throwing the
Yeah, but
ball.
that also doesn't mean he's not capable. I mean, I've also seen Hurts, and one thing, and I knock Hurts more than everybody. In the fourth quarter, Hurts makes plays when he has to make plays. There was a 3rd and 8 play where he made the crossing route pattern to Goddard to pick up a key first down that led to a touchdown to put him up 9.
Yeah.
He made that pass when he had to make that pass.
But the
So
volume, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, he could do it, but when the volume's there and he's got to do it,
I mean,
more
can
than-
he do it when they're down? Are they going to be down there? It might be. I'm not
So
a
I think
believer in Hurts.
they have an 8 game winning streak, and it just so happens he's thrown 21 passes in the fourth
I,
quarter in those 8 games.
what,
So
what I'll
I'd
disagree
be
with
curious
you.
to see how many dropbacks there were total, because if they call a passing play and he ends up running for a first down, he's making a play versus like we're just not asking him to throw because we don't trust him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It
but
can't be
you
that
can
many more,
watch.
but I mean,
You could just think back at the games and you forget about the stats. Like they've been leading in games and they've been running the ball
right, but once you
Barkley.
get to the
It's the
playoffs,
case. Like
I got
I don't even need stats
I got the
to know
schedule
that
up in front of me. I mean, I don't think they haven't trailed in the fourth quarter in
right.
any of these games.
but what I'm saying is you're going to run into good teams in the playoffs. And
Yeah.
The one thing I think I mean, and my picks show it. I mean,
I
our
know
picks
what you're
show
going
it.
to say, and I agree. The league is bad.
The league is a different league. It's a
I'm
bad
not.
league.
Listen, I'm
Quarterbacks
not
are bad.
saying. And when we talk about awards, and I'm going to throw a couple of bets in. I'm not saying they're not one of the teams that could go to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that because the league is not
But-
good.
I mean, I don't besides Mahomes. I mean, Goff has shown he could do it, but I don't trust Goff doing the same thing. Goff could do it because Ben Johnson's calling an offense where the guys are wide
No.
open. I mean, so Darnold, you trust Darnold? You know what I'm saying? I
Well,
just
if
think
you're
the
just
whole
talking
league.
NFC. No, I mean none of the quarterbacks that are going to be in the playoffs, other than
So yeah, it's Allen and Mahomes, right? That's it.
right, Allen and Mahomes. Yep, and
I mean,
you got to listen. I don't like Jackson, but Jackson in the playoffs he doesn't. But Jackson, I mean, you got to say he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks right now. I mean,
yeah, but he hasn't done, and he hasn't. They haven't won close. I mean, you look at Baltimore; they haven't won close games.
no,
They
and it'll be the same question with him when he's going to have to. And he don't answer that question because look at their playoff record.
yeah, he's proved it in the past. Yeah.
So I mean, that's the only thing I'll say about it. They won 8 in a row. It's an impressive win to win at Baltimore. But I don't know how sustainable that Hurts thing is down the road. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing in 22, and they kept proving they got it to the Super Bowl, and
Yeah.
he played besides the fumble, he
he had a great
proved he could do it. So, and I mean, I was impressed with
He
that
was
win.
also doing more that year than he's doing this year. He was doing more.
I don't think they've. I mean, to Chalky's point, it's like, and he's been bad in the first quarter, like all that stuff. But his games
Listen,
are gonna.
I'm saying he hasn't been asked. Could he do it? I still doubt it.
There was a game where he used his legs a lot and he made a lot of good plays. God, it was probably closer to the beginning of the winning streak, and I can't necessarily. What maybe was this? Say I can't remember which game it was, but he did it with his legs. He was moving with his leg, like not design runs, but he was the old Hurts where he was picking up first downs with his legs, stuff like that. I mean, I came away impressed with the win. I thought that, I mean, I think this defense is legit,
They're
which
playing
I'm
really well.
very surprised at. I mean, the secondary, generally your defensive line makes your secondary better. This secondary is making the defensive line now start to play to look a lot better.
Carter too. I mean, Carter's unbelievable.
He's the best. I mean, it's funny when we get to awards, like he's not even in the range of possible defensive player of the year. And if you watch any Eagles games, he's hands down the best player on defense, and he's held on every single play. That's just ignored.
Yeah.
No, but the toughness of the Eagles, like they out physical Ravens, which not many teams do. They out physical every team, and in the fourth quarter is when it really comes out after they kind of leaned on teams for a while. Then that offensive line really opens up the holes. The defensive line starts to get a little more pressure. The linebackers are flying. Zach Vaughn looks really, he's making great plays. I'm impressed. I think they can. I think this defense is good enough to continue to lead them and have the offense kind of just trail behind and do enough. We'll see as they play like a Detroit, especially if you're at Ford Field, it's going to be tough. But that's another conversation to come. Chalky?
I mean, yeah, impressive win. I would like to see the offense obviously play a little bit better. But, I mean, when we talk about, and we'll use Jackson as the example here, Jackson tears up in the regular season, 30 touchdowns, 4,000, all this stuff. But when he gets to the best defenses, there's usually an issue. So for this defense to make him look like he did in the regular season, where he's beating, like it's weird because like the same teams that if he runs into Kansas City who are from the playoffs, he'll often have beat them during the regular season, and then something changes and he can't get past them in the playoffs. So the fact that this defense was able to, it held him to 300 yards before that last drive. And Tucker missed a couple kicks, but, they weren't from the 5-yard line, so the defense wasn't letting them walk all the way down. I think I said a week or two ago, but, I mean, you have to think they're legit at this point. I still have concerns about, the effectiveness of everybody on the line with Graham not going to be around. And now Blankenship's got another concussion, so you got to wonder what, they might have to hold him out a little longer, and is he going to be at risk?
I think the one week,
but
to me, the one weakness on their defense was Blankenship. So
yeah,
maybe. I'm not a huge fan of his.
If you watch the game, every pass that was made was in front of Blankenship. I saw a play where DeJean passed them off to Blankenship, and Blankenship just kept backing up instead of playing.
He's not the best player on the defense for sure.
I think he's actually awful, but so I think it's an upgrade.
I think he should be a backup.
I think he's a backup.
I think he could be okay in the role he's in, which is now he's obviously not a corner, and you have DeJean and Gardner Johnson, so he's like your third safety to use in certain packages.
I know, but teams find weakness. Teams always find the weak link.
I get it. He can't play every down. But if you have an limited, well, yeah, I mean, we've seen teams attack certain guys like when they're on the field. So, to me, the whole ability of can they get to the Super Bowl, and we talked about it last week, and there was 3 teams on the list. After last week and last night, I would still have those 3 teams from the NFC as your possible, really only Super Bowl legit contenders. But it's going to hinge on the defense, and if this defense becomes more of what they finished the year last year, which would be a huge drop, I would be concerned because I don't know that the offense is going to be able to score 30 points a game or whatever if they have to play in a shootout from the get go. They struggle in the first quarter almost every week. They got like one first quarter touchdown or whatever it is. This offense, for whatever reason, it's slow to get started. So you need the defense to keep the other team in check, and then they can rip some big plays off pretty quickly. The only time they did trail in the fourth quarter, I looked it up here. So the Commanders, they were trailing but scored early in the fourth quarter to take the lead, and then held the lead for that. But this team, you mentioned the physicality on offense, Tom, and they wear teams down. It's very reminiscent of some of those Andy Reid teams, or even early Chip Kelly, where McCoy would break a play, lose 5 yards, break a play, lose 5 yards. But when the fourth quarter came, and those guys McCoy could go off for 75 yards at any given time he got the ball. And Barkley's doing that now. But they're physical on defense. They're beating teams up on both sides of the ball. There was the hit DeJean put on Henry that everybody, he picked him up. He's like half the size. He picked him up. Dean is making tackles. I mean, everybody's making tackles. And guys are getting hit, and they're getting hit hard. And that wears a team out. So the fact that both sides of the ball are being physical and they're winning those battles, you have room for error. Or at the very least, if you can play pretty mistake-free, even if you're not making great plays every play, you're going to be in there at the end. And if they get the lead, I don't know what defense right now is going to can stop Barkley if they've been leaning on him all game with this line. Like, nobody's been able to do it in this 8-game streak. So,
look, they remind me a lot of last year's Kansas City team that we had the same thing around their offense. I mean, even with Mahomes struggled in beginning. I mean, even the Super Bowl, that defense kept them in games, and then again they had Mahomes, and then Mahomes made plays in the fourth quarter. But so far, the Hurts and Barkley, whoever you want to say, I mean, probably predominantly Barkley has made that big run. Has made that same play after the defense has kept the games close, and then the offense pulls away. Maybe Barkley don't get stopped this year. I mean, there's nothing saying that the running back can't like what are they're the top for Hurts not being able to throw the ball. They're top 2, I think, in explosive plays, maybe, which is predominantly by Barkley's legs, right? I mean, Hurts has made a couple plays here and there, but it's predominantly to AJ and all, but predominantly by Barkley's legs. So, I mean, we'll see.
I mean, did any of us ever, and I can't say I remember if there was a year where Barkley wasn't hurt that he didn't put up unbelievable numbers?
I would have to look it up. I don't know. I mean,
I'll look it up now. When he's healthy, he's great.
He's great. He don't stay healthy a lot. He's staying healthy this year.
And that's
but he also didn't stay healthy as much because of he's getting hit at the line of scrimmage. He's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, there was a lot of factors in.
I don't know weren't some of them soft tissue injuries and all that he had?
Might have been. That's what I'm trying to. I don't know off the top of my head, but
he tore didn't he tear his knee up 1 year?
1 year he might have. Him and Beckham got knee injuries in the same game the 1 year, I want to say.
And he played on that horrific turf in MetLife.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. I mean, but if they weren't soft tissue injuries, he's not getting touched on these plays. So if you're worried about him,
I mean, he's come up gingerly on a couple. There's a few plays where
you hold
even
your breath a little bit.
Was it the fumble? I think the fumble he held his groin. It looked like there's been plays that I mean, he's a human. So
yeah, I mean, there's no denying his talent.
I know. I just think you can't handicap if a guy's going to get hurt. I mean, because Jared Goff can go out there next week and tear his knee up, and the Lions are probably done.
No, but it's similar to McCaffrey. There's a guy who's hurt. Last year, he didn't get hurt. He was unbelievable.
Right.
This year, he's hurt all the time. Barkley could be hurt all the time next year.
Next year it's
that different story. I was going to say this because you said this since we started this 2 years ago about Hurts. It's like, hey, it's working now. They're just going to keep using him, and whatever happens in 3 years happens in 3 years. Barkley's got 3 guaranteed years, whatever it is.
Look, the NFL is a crazy sport. When you have a chance to win a Super Bowl, you better not be
empty the clip
saving guys.
They'll give him 400 carries if he's healthy, and that's what it takes to win the Super Bowl. I mean,
I got
bottom line.
I got no problems with that. Okay, let's move to Eagles Panthers. Not necessarily Eagles Ravens, but I'm sure we'll have some good takes on it. Eagles are right now 13.5 point favorite, I believe. When I just saw over under is sitting at 46. Carolina has been, me and Jason were talking, and I'll set it up and I'll move it to Jason. I mean, as if you're somebody that follows the sport, especially you follow gambling, this is got letdown game written all over it. They just came off of the biggest win of the year as far as like an opponent. Ravens are notorious for being a physical game. We saw Pittsburgh beat the Ravens and then lose to Cleveland the following week. Now that might have been a Thursday. No, it was a regular. I think it was no, it might have been a Thursday game. I can't remember.
Just
Um,
Thursday night.
yeah, it was a Thursday game. So we've seen it happen already with the Ravens. Carolina's been playing much better. They took Kansas City to overtime. They took Tampa Bay to overtime, right? Too. Wow, I didn't realize they played. Or no, Kansas City. That Kansas City wound up pulling it out with like at the
Yeah,
buzzer.
They
it was
should and
for all
they
intents
should
and
have beat
purposes.
Tampa Bay.
For all intents and purposes, it was
It was
basically
over. It was overtime. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they played, and then before that, they might have even won the game before that. So they're playing good. I mean, Bryce Young's looking better. They actually they actually don't look too bad, and the Eagles are coming off their biggest win. So it's a classic letdown game, but the line is still 13.5, which is a lot in the NFL. That actually is probably the biggest spread this year that I could think of.
Chiefs.
Might be.
Chiefs was it Chiefs? Chiefs
I think it was
Raiders.
12.5.
It wasn't 14. I know.
Yeah, I think it was 12.5.
Yeah.
So Jason, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you basically mentioned a lot of what I was going to bring up as far as a letdown game. But there's one other key stat, and I've mentioned it before on the podcast, is when teams are on the road for multiple games and then they come home for the first game. Like, that's another part of this letdown, which I see. And obviously, I don't think the Panthers could win this game, but I'm trying to make a point for them to keep it close at least. When I say close, within 10 points. But that the two road games and then coming home now for their first home game, it's a game where, like you mentioned, they're coming off this big, Ravens win, somewhat physical game that they had there. Carolina really looks good. Like, I've been riding them the last couple of weeks. Like, I like them against the Chiefs. I liked them. They were my best bet last week against Tampa Bay. Totally should have won the game. I mean, Hubbard's a fumble machine. I mean, that's the disgrace that he fumbled the ball there to lose that game for them. But and Young, like, I kind of wish they would get this kid some skill position players around them, because like his receivers dropped balls all game last week. They were terrible. Hubbard's fumbling balls. Like, give the kid a chance. I mean, he was terrible last year, and he's looked good for the last 5 games or so this year. So, I do not think the Eagles could lose this game. They have all the advantages. Their run game is probably the best in the league, and Carolina's run defense is bad. And then they have some defensive advantages against Carolina. I just think it's just one of those games where the Eagles probably win it comfortably, 27-17, but that's not 13.5 points. So that's going to be my score, and you'll hear more about that later.
All right, Chalky, your thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm same mindset of Jason on a lot of this. I expect it to be a closer game than I would have expected 3 weeks ago, maybe. Panthers actually won 2 in a row going in the Kansas City game. They had a 1-point win over the juggernaut Saints, and the Giants, they had a 3-point win.
Oh, that was the London game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So technically, they've had 4 consecutive home games, but the London game isn't a real home game. But look, they hung with the Chiefs, and like I said, they should have won the Bucks game in regulation. They scored a touchdown with whatever time left, and then the defense let Tampa go back down and tie it to go to overtime. So no, I don't think they're going to win the game. I would be surprised if It's really close at the end, but I think it's going to be close enough throughout most of the game. I see it as a 10-point game. Um, so 27-17, somewhere in that range. 30 might be a little high, or 30-20. Um, I don't think it's going to be a 2-touchdown win, and I think the unless the Eagles get out early and put points up early, they're not. I mean, Panthers aren't going to come charging back, but I'm not going to believe that they're past these slow starts until I actually start seeing it happen. So if Young at least plays relatively, mistake free, is not turning the ball over, they should be within that striking distance of the spread for the whole game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I see a little different. I just think with the line still being 13, I mean, everybody knows that. Vegas knows that. I don't know. I think 13 and a half is all that you need to see for to see who's gonna.
I mean, I've heard a handicapper who I listen to on VSiN and everything else. He's got them. He said the spread should be 15. Like in his he does his own algorithms or whatever. So I mean, I think that's why it's that high. I think it's
Yeah, I think
legitimately.
I in an NFL football game, especially this year, 13 and a half points is a lot of points.
Mhm.
And I think this Eagles team's a little bit different. I don't think I think, I say what you want about Sirianni. Like, I do still think he's clownish, but he gets them focused each game. I mean, their slow starts are not because they didn't come out, they're not prepared, they didn't come out focused. I mean, there's I don't know why they have slow starts, but it's not that. And this is a game where the coach is the one that has to keep them focused. And I just think if Carter comes out and plays how he's been playing, right, and he's coming right up the gut against Bryce Young, I just see him wrecking the game for Young, especially if he could do it early and just be. I don't see him playing a mistake-free game. I see some turnovers. I see some turnovers early, and I could see the Eagles jumping on them kind of early and then kind of coasting into an easy victory. 13 and a half opens it up to the backdoor cover for sure. I mean, you're up 3 scores and you let up a touchdown. The Eagles have been notorious this year for letting up that late touchdown. It's happened, I mean, a ton of games so far this year. So, that's always out there. But I still got the Eagles comfortably. So I agree with the 17. I just have the Eagles scoring 34. So I got 34-17. I mean, 17-point victory is comfortable. It still doesn't cover by a whole heck of a lot. But I do have it 34-17. Okay. Anything else before we move on?
So, but the backdoor cover is always an option when they pick up a flag because the other team makes this 60-yard play or whatever.
Yeah,
They're
that
just
was
like, no, we're not gonna.
They
Well,
flat out didn't call that holding because
they had his jersey he drugged to his kneecaps,
Yeah.
and they picked the flag up.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous, but
the officiating just continues. I love my new favorite thing is replay assist, which they've completely just ignored what the rules were around replay assist and let it. So I watched last night. I watched Jalen Reed or whatever his name is miss a pass for 3 yards, and replay they call it complete, and replay assist comes in and says he dropped it, which he did. Right call. Then the next play, which is Love gets punched in the face throwing a pass, and replay assist isn't allowed to look at roughing the passer.
yeah.
It's just common. It's.
But replay assist can review whether the challenge flag was thrown before the ball was snapped, as we learned in the Rams game, the Sunday night game.
They just have to do what they do in college.
Everything to let the booth look at everything.
Enough with throwing flags. Come on,
But even now, roughing the passers. I mean, he got punched in the face throwing a pass that alters it changes the game. These are calls that change the game. I mean, not last week, I was on the week before. The Titans game, like you said, where the guy gets the guy in the end zone in the first quarter, second quarter, whatever it was, it changed the game.
Changed the whole game. Changed the whole game.
Right. Like, it can't happen.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to these awards before we move into our pick. So we'll start with the big one, because it kind of goes into another one, and that's the MVP. At this point, it looks like it's probably down to a 2-man race between Allen, who's minus 220, and Barkley, who's plus 350. Then you got Jackson and Goff, who are in the 8s. But I mean, it's a two-man race. I don't see any way Allen's not going to win it. I guess if Barkley were to break Dickerson's record, you could see it. To me, just look at Offensive Player of the Year, where Barkley's minus 500 to win that one,
Yeah.
which tells me that Vegas the true odds are not plus 220 or whatever it is,
No.
350, because they really think he's going to win Offensive a Year.
Yeah.
They don't think he's going to win the MVP. So
Yeah.
I think minus 220 on Allen is a steal,
Yeah.
barring like obviously something crazy going to happen. Jason?
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, obviously, I have Barkley at 40-1 to win MVP. It's not happening. They're just not. They're not going to give it to a running back anymore. Like McCaffrey had a year just like Barkley's having last year, and he wasn't even close to winning. It's just not going to happen. I think it's a two-man race, but I think it's Jackson. Jackson's numbers are incredible. Like if they somehow win a division and Allen kind of has a couple of bad games down the stretch, could open the door for Jackson. I think Allen's going to win because I don't see Allen kind of slowing down. But I just don't. I don't see them giving it to Barkley, and I wish it would because I would make some money on it. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, Chalky, your thoughts?
Obviously you said barring injury, it's Allen's right now. I mean, the one thing I would say, Buffalo's 10-2. If they drop two more games, they got the Lions coming up where the Lions will have the extra rest. That won't be, held against them. But if he drops another game somewhere, Patriots at the end, and the Eagles go 15-2, maybe that's what it is. But the Bills would have to lose a couple of these, at least two games, which might be tough for them to do. I think for Allen not to win MVP at this point.
I think minus 220, like especially you throw that in with a parlay with some other future award. Like I think that's a steal.
Yeah, and I think for Barkley, you talk about Dickerson's record. I mean, if that's going to be a criteria for your vote, to me, he's got to do it in 16 games. You can't count that 17th game as well. He broke the record. Well, he had the extra game. So if he does,
and Dickerson broke and Dickerson broke OJ's record, and who only played 14 games.
Yeah,
so that's nonsense. The record is the record.
No, I know, but I don't think we're doing it in the 17th game is going to give extra credit from the reporters.
Yeah, I don't see him winning MVP. I just don't see it happening unless if Allen and Jackson both get hurt, maybe he wins. But other than that, I think it's one of them two.
I just don't understand the Offensive Player of the Year then. So like Allen and Jackson aren't even under consideration for that, which makes me think that the reason is
it's a running back or wide receiver award, basically.
Right, but if Barkley wins it, shouldn't Allen be Offensive Player of the Year then? You know what I'm saying? Like if Barkley wins MVP, shouldn't that go to Allen?
Yeah. So you should, if you really think Barkley's going to win MVP, you should bet Allen or Jackson to win.
And I don't even have I only wrote the top three for that, and they're not even in the top three. Which tells
like you said, Barkley they're not giving it to Barkley. They're just going to. They're not going.
It tells you it's going to go to Allen. Agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Allen is 40-1. Jackson is 60-1.
Right. They ain't laying those odds if they think.
No, it's the anybody but a quarterback award essentially, like you said. So if you go back and look,
the quarterback gets the MVP.
Yeah, big right. And there's only a small handful of quarterbacks that have won both MVP and Offensive Player of the Year, and those are like record seasons.
Yeah, who won it when Peterson won?
That's what I was going to ask. Who won it the year Peterson won? It had to be a quarterback.
I will look it up
Well,
now.
I want to
say was that Manning's first year in Denver when he had like 40-something touchdown passes? Maybe we'll see.
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
While Chalky's looking that up, Jason, I'll go to you, who I know we spoke about this a couple weeks ago through text. The Offensive Rookie of the Year, which Daniels had a good game, and now he moves back into a nice stranglehold on the lead. He's minus 250. Bo Nix plus 200. But the Broncos continue to win, and then Bowers is third, and he's way down there.
Yeah, I think Nix is a legit bet at plus 200 because who's to say Daniels isn't going to have a couple bad games and Nix isn't going to continue to play well? You can't bet Daniels.
No,
and they're not giving it to Bowers, right? No. So it's going to be either Daniels or Nix. So then who do you bet? Nix.
Yeah, I mean both teams that they're on are overachieving. So yeah, it's kind of a wash. Um,
Hicks is
yeah,
really
I mean,
impressing me. Like he was kind of. I was in the first couple games. I didn't like him, and then I was like, this kid makes plays now. He makes plays with his legs. He makes
he's
his
got a good arm
arm.
and a good coach. I mean, it
He's
helps.
got a really good coach. That helps. So, yeah, I mean, I've already bet Knicks, but I have a preseason bet on Daniels, so I'm going to win that. Um, but now I would say bet Knicks if you don't have any bets down.
Chalky, do you have something for us?
I mean, of those two, you got you got to bet Knicks if you have to place a bet because Daniels isn't any value there.
Right.
Did you get the question we were looking for? Or are you still
It's
looking?
Yes.
2012 was the year, I think, right?
Yeah, so Peterson won both that year.
Oh,
Which is stupid. I mean, don't.
So
It's
quickly, so I was a year off on Manning. So 12, Peterson won both. 13, Manning won both. That's when he broke Brady's passing touchdown record. Um,
so they're basically saying Barkley's going to win both. If he wins MVP, he's going to also
yeah.
win offense, which is stupid. That's
probably
another
That'd
Cam.
be phenomenal for me because I have bets on both. I have
Yeah.
40-1 MVP and 30-1 on Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So I'll
Yeah, it's
clean up.
it was actually more often than I thought that the quarterback wins both. Cam Newton did it in 15. Matt Ryan did in 16. Mahomes did it
I
in
just think
18.
like I would love to hear the justification behind it. Like you, of course, the MVP of the league is going to also be the offensive player of the year. So like it, so make it one award or make it two. Like you can't win this. It's just a stupid concept. So like who won the MVP last year? Mahomes. But why didn't he win? Why didn't he win offensive player of the year?
Lamar Jackson won last year.
Or Lamar. I mean, I know McCaffrey won it, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, if he won the MVP, then he's probably the offensive player of the year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
because I mean, it's turned into a award for whoever's quarterback wins. I mean, that's just the way it works out. It doesn't
right,
make sense.
right.
It doesn't make sense at
But don't give
all.
it
I
to
get it.
both. Don't give one guy both. That's
Yeah.
just dumb.
I mean, I think yeah. I mean, because whoever wins, even if a defensive player were to win MVP, then he should also win Defensive Player of the Year. So
Right.
it
Of
just,
course.
you know.
All right, let's go to defensive rookie of the year, and this one's another one that's like pretty, very, very wide open. So Jared Verse is -125. Quinyon Mitchell is +150. Frisk is +650, and Cooper DeJean is now fourth at +1200. Um, Mitchell's going to struggle because he doesn't have stats, right? He doesn't have interceptions, his tackles out, that kind of stuff. But obviously, if you watch him, there's a reason they don't throw the ball his way a lot. And Versus on the line, which they love giving, those types of players
Yeah.
the defensive rookie of the years. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah. I think, and even if you were to talk about Defensive Player of the Year, I have bets on one kid had like McKinney had like a bunch of interceptions beginning of the year, like an interception every game or something, and I put a bet on him for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's nowhere near. Like they're just going to give it to a lineman. Like it's going to be Watt for Defensive Player of the Year, and it's going to be this other kid for Rookie of the Year. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah, so -125 is probably good value on him right now.
Probably.
Chalky.
I mean, if you really like Verse, I would say yeah, because that gap has narrowed significantly over the last couple of weeks. Verse was like -300 at one point, and Mitchell was more like 3 or 4 to 1. So it's gotten closer over the last 2 weeks. In terms of value, I might say Fisk because he's going to get stats. He's going to get sacks. DeJean being so high, I don't think he's going to have enough ability to do enough to make 12 to 1 even worth a bet. But obviously, he's a hot name now with some of the plays he's making. But I would say, yeah, you say Versus maybe the most likely winner, but I'd like Fisk at maybe +650 if I have to place a bet there.
Okay. Defensive player of the year. I mean, the odds tell you Watt's only -220, which is not crazy. But then the next guy is Myles Garrett at +850, which tells you that it looks like this is Watt's award to lose and probably will not lose it. Jason.
Yeah, I think Watt's winning.
Chalky.
Yeah, I mean it speaks for itself.
And then Coach here, which is another one that's like Campbell's only minus 185, but then and it could be because the next group of guys are kind of lumped together. But then the next guy is plus 500, which is Tomlin, plus 550 O'Connell, and then plus 700 is Peyton. Me personally, I think Tomlin, O'Connell, and Peyton all deserve it over Campbell, but obviously the odds are saying Campbell. I mean, you got Pittsburgh. Nobody thought Pittsburgh would be where they're at.
Yeah.
Minnesota's potentially could have a
Yeah.
better record than Detroit. And then
Yeah.
Sean Payton doing what he's doing in Denver is obviously amazing. So I think this is just a popularity coach award. But Jason, your thoughts?
I agree with you. I mean, I honestly, Campbell's probably going to get it because Detroit's probably going to be 15-2 at worst, right?
Yeah, but they're a team that had high their expectations were
Yeah, I
high.
don't disagree. But like, if you said each of those three guys that you mentioned, I would have no argument with them winning. Like Tomlin
No,
on a Pittsburgh team that I thought was going to win 6 games, and he's going to have them win 10 or 11 games.
at least. Yeah.
McConnell turned Darnold into a legitimate player, which nobody thought was possible. And they, like you said, they might win 14 games. And then Peyton might be the most impressive of any of them because he's got a team that has the most dead cap space in NFL. And he's got a rookie quarterback playing out of his mind. I mean, who deserves it more than him?
Yeah, I 100% agree everything you said. Chalky.
Yeah, I mean those three guys have all outkicked their coverage as far as what we thought at the beginning of the year, or even what the odds were as far as wins for their teams. Detroit was expected to be the best team in the NFC, and they've lived up to it. But if they go 15-2, 16-1, it's going to go to Campbell because that would be 16
But
wins has been done.
the
done
part I don't
once.
understand is why is Sirianni not on the list then?
Well,
Because
that's what I wanted to ask you. I was going to because
And-
I can't get the coach odds here in PA, so I want to know where Sirianni is.
yeah,
'cause if-
I would have to go back to the draft.
Eagles
I could
aren't
look.
going to get it at.
He was like 20-1, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, after last night, 15-2 is not going to be good enough to win if Detroit's still
So,
15-2.
I'll tell you
DraftKings
why.
40. He's 40-1. DraftKings
Yeah,
has him.
because, and we said this before, like he's in a no-win situation. He's winning now. This is a theory because of Moore.
Right, but why is Campbell? What's Campbell's winning because of Ben Johnson and Glenn? Because he goes for it on fourth down and his nose
Yeah.
turned red. I mean,
Well, I mean, I think everybody will look at last year with how the Eagles collapsed at the end, and everybody
and
coordinators.
Campbell went for 2 and blew the NFC
Yeah.
Championship.
Well, I mean, at least he got to the NFC Championship. The Eagles were a total collapse in the second half of the year.
Yeah, no. I just think it's just doesn't it. That's why I hate these awards. Is they don't make sense. They don't make sense. Like I don't. Are they based on the betting? Like, do you think that they're based on like the way that the money's moving? Is it similar to lines? I don't. It's not.
No,
I mean,
I think legitimately, like Campbell might not win, so you might, but who do you bet are those other three? Like
Well,
those other
yeah.
three, you put their names in a hat and pull one out. And
I mean,
put a
I
bet
guess
on
you
them,
could
because
argue you should look at their schedule, look at Pittsburgh's schedule, look at minutes, see where
They can
you
all
really
they can
think.
all win it. Those other three guys.
I mean, I have heard some people say on VSiN like these are some of the harder markets to sort of just so the lines are a lot in a lot of ways going to be based on the money because this isn't something that's going to be decided on the field. It's going to be the minds of a group of voters, and you're trying to predict what somebody's going to think and their opinion of somebody in the end. So that makes it a little more volatile when it comes to. I mean, if you look over the last couple of years, and there's injuries and everything, but week to week, the odds of who was the favorite for MVP would change. Up until when the Eagles were 10-1 last year, Hurts was either first or second. Then they lost 4 games.
Well, Lamar Jackson was just
and then it was
what?
Mahomes, and then Jackson,
Lamar was just the favorite at one point, right?
Yeah, Mahomes was the favorite when they were undefeated, but he stunk. All right, they lost 1 game, and they're as close in the ones after that as they were when he was the favorite, and all of a sudden he's what 4th, 5th now. So you're going to see some of these will change drastically week to week because they're trying to predict what somebody's going to think, and they're not always right.
So before we
Okay.
move on, I just have one suggestion of a bet. And FanDuel offers this. I don't know if DraftKings does. I know FanDuel does, but the Super Bowl exactas. I'm so convinced that there are only 3 teams in each conference that are getting to the Super Bowl. That it's, I mean, you could just fast forward to the last, you know, three weeks of football. I mean, in the AFC, is there any chance it's going to be anyone but the Bills, Chiefs, or Ravens? No chance,
No, and
right?
I would argue it's probably Bills and Chiefs are
I
the.
still think the Ravens could do it, but I mean, regardless, there's no chance of anyone else at all. Even if you give the Ravens a 10% chance, and the other 2 teams
I mean,
9.
the only thing I'll tell you is if Wilson plays like he has played in a few of these games. Now I don't know if their defense is good enough. I'm just saying they can win ugly games in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
I mean,
maybe they knock one
Pittsburgh's
of
got
them
the
off.
Eagles and the Ravens again. If they beat those two teams, then I think you're forced to sort of put them in the conversation,
Yeah,
and then knock the
listen.
Ravens out.
Could
But
they beat one of those 3? Yes. Could they get by all of them? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I
they're
just
going to
don't see it
be.
happening.
I mean,
yeah,
the
There
one
would have to
bye,
at least be 2 of those.
the
as,
one
Would
as
have
of
to
right
bye.
be
now, I
2.
agree. I still don't see them as like a legit
No,
contender, but
no.
they've beaten
And
me the
then you
last
go to
couple weeks.
NFC. Is it anybody but the Lions, Eagles, and I still give the Packers a chance, but is it any of those? But those 3? No, there's no chance anybody else but those 3 are.
No, I would agree. But if Minnesota beats Detroit, they might get the division, and then I don't
I see them losing early.
I
I see them
see.
losing.
I mean, I have
Yeah,
Detroit
they
and Minnesota in the same boxes. Like, I know they have great records, are playing well. I don't buy them
Minnesota,
as
Minnesota's
Minnesota, they could get the #1 seed and they could lose the first game.
they win all they win these one score, like
Yeah,
not less than one score games.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
If
not.
Minnesota gets the #1 seed, their likely second round or their first game, but the second round matchup would be either Detroit or Green Bay. Probably.
And they're getting Detroit in a dome, which is
And
And
they'd
probably
be
the
so,
same as if
underdogs.
they were
unless
home.
They'd be
they beat
underdog in
Detroit
both
by
of them.
50 points in a couple of weeks, Detroit might still be the favorite in that game.
They'd be underdogs in both of those games.
Yeah.
As the #1 seed.
Well, it's like the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That was for, you were missing a guy, but
Yeah. So, but anyway, you could bet those exactas and get decent odds. I got them all covered. Like I had earlier in the year, I had the Lions, and then I just recently added the Eagles and Green Bay to those 3 because those 3 in the AFC have just been. I'm just convinced. I've been convinced on those 3. So
And I would probably argue again that's more Eagles. I mean Green Bay, yeah, but I think it's more likely Detroit.
yeah, I mean, you could cut that back and just say Detroit or the Eagles.
All right.
I mean, I like the odds today when I saw Green Bay's. They're ridiculous. They're like 30-1 against.
Yeah, they're coming off a loss to Detroit, and also you would think this
Yeah.
is the time
So
to buy
I just threw that in.
Okay, well,
so
and
DraftKings does not have pre-made exactas. You just would have to do a
FanDuel.
parlay.
FanDuel.
No, you said if DraftKings had it.
I'm sorry.
You said you didn't know if DraftKings.
I didn't know.
offered it.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they don't offer it as a standalone bet, but you could parlay, Buffalo and Green Bay to win the conferences, and that'd be 28
Oh,
or
okay.
whatever. So that's
Probably
why you'd have to
the same
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Jason, you want to take us away with picks?
Yeah, we'll do stats. So we'll do the league stats first. Over under 8 over 7 unders last week. 1 push. So overs is 99 and 92 in a year, and I'm convinced that kickoff has something to do with it. And then the spread, the public had a huge week last week. They're 11 and 5. The public is now 99 and 93 on the year.
Yeah. One thing I saw too, Jason, is straight up. So money line, home and away, dead even.
Wow.
95 and 95, the home versus away.
pretty
If you
crazy.
bet every home team money line, you'd be down over $3,000, which is the second worst in 20 years at this point of the season.
Yeah. So we'll go to our stats. So we were 5 and 7 on the week. I was 2 and 1. So we'll start with me. hit another best bet. I'm on fire at best bets this year. I'm 8-4, but I had the Panthers. Should have won outright, but they covered. And then I had the Cardinals. They should have won outright too against Minnesota. They covered. But I had the Bengals, which will be a common theme. So I went 2-1. Chalky went 1-2. He had the Bengals as his best bet. So that I have to check when all three of us have the same team. It's really,
It's
really
not
bad.
good.
It's a bad record. But so Chalky lost that. He did have the under in the Chargers and Falcons. He won that one. But he had the Ravens, so he lost. Tommy went 1-2. He also had the Bengals as his best bet. He had the Falcons +1, but he won with the Jaguars, so he went 1-2. Meeker also 1-2. He actually hit his best bet. I don't want anyone to fall down and bang their head when hearing that, but he hit the Rams Saints under. So that was a win. But then he lost. He had the Falcons as well, and then his Browns Broncos under. He really should be charged with multiple losses for that bet, but only gets one. So for the year, Chalky is 21-17, profit of $237. I think it's 237. Got to get in better light, but anyway, 55% win, 6% ROI. I'm 19-19, loss of $190. 50% win, minus 5% ROI. Meeker is 17-21, loss of $567, 45% win, minus 15% ROI. Tommy's 15-21, loss of $740, 42% win, minus 21% ROI. For the year, the podcast is 73-81, loss of $1,471, 47% win, minus 9.6% ROI. Best bets, I'm 8-4, like I said, and overall for the podcast, I'm 28-18, 61% lifetime best bet. Tommy's 5-7 for the year. Overall, he's 24-21, 53% lifetime record best bet. Chalky's 5-8. He's 24-24, 50% lifetime. Meeker's 5-8. He's 20-27 lifetime, 42%, which is astonishing for a best bet record. And then the pod itself for the year is 24-28. Lifetime we're 90-90, 52%. And then overall, our lifetime records, I am 82-61, profit of $1,319, 57% win, 9% ROI. Tommy is now even. He's 68-68, loss of $393, 50% win, minus 3% ROI. Chalky is 70-74, loss of $962, 49% win, minus 7% ROI. Meeker, 67-73, $1,253, 48% win, minus 9% ROI. And in total, we are 287-276, loss of $1,288, 51% win, minus 2.3% ROI.
Yeah, I just think it's impossible to pick these games anymore. The rule changes, the officiating, it's just impossible. I mean, I'm not going to change how I approach them. I'm still going to continue to play lines, but I just think it's absolutely impossible. And now the public rules, but we do give out picks. With that said, I don't remember where we left off with the order, so I'll just start from back from the kind of how we always do it in the beginning. And Chalky, you can kick us off.
All right, so best bet is going to be under 41 in the Saints-Giants game. That's minus 110. Second pick is going to be Arizona -3, minus 102. That's against Seattle.
Yikes.
Third pick is going to be San Francisco -3.5, minus 112 against Chicago.
Okay, Jason, you have Meeker's picks?
Yeah, I do.
Now, you did get these picks already. Did you then make your picks once you saw Meeker's picks?
No, because once you hear Meeker's picks, you know I would never, ever have these picks. But we do have an interesting pick of Meeker's that we'll get to. So his best bet is the over in the Browns and Steelers game, over 43.5 minus 112, I think, Chalky. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Over 43.5 minus 112.
Okay. He's got the Jets +6 minus 112.
The Jets +6. Yep.
And then he has the 49ers -3.5 minus 112, Chalky. So
Mm-hmm.
2-7.
That's
The
that's,
2 and
that's my
7.
third. That's my third pick. So
And it's your third pick, but
Right.
it's not his best bet. If it was his best bet
Yeah.
and your third pick would be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I have one good one bad one. My bad one, unfortunately, is my best bet, as I have Arizona at the -3, -102,
You are in big trouble.
which is me and Chalky don't team up, and it sounds like Jason might
You're
also
in,
have
you're
included.
in
So
big
that's
trouble.
bad.
You're in big trouble.
My second pick is the LA Rams at +3.5. Minus is that 110?
110.
110.
And this last pick I love now. As I've rode the firing coach train for a while now. Chicago +3.5, -108 against the Niners, as I'll be taking on Chalky and Meeker with our third pick. So
I mean, that's a 77% trend.
I like that one.
Yeah. Well, my best bet is the Arizona Cardinals -3, -102.
Not good.
So we could be in trouble. Could be in big trouble. I have to look.
Although this we share best bet, where last week we
Yeah,
didn't
that's
share our best
true. That
bet.
is
Maybe
true. We
that.
have the same best bet, and that's usually like, I mean, I think that outrageous if I go back and look at that. So I'll have those stats for us next week. And my second pick, Tom, is the Rams +3.5 -110. So although we haven't been doing good when we have the same second bet,
No, not this
I mean, we're
year.
still 21-9 overall. So when we have the same bets, my third bet, as I alluded to earlier, is going to be the Panthers +30. I think they're going to cover. I'm not going to say keep it close. I think it'll be 2 scores, but I think they cover, whether it's backdoor or not. I think it's 10 points. So it's
So
13.
I don't think anybody has won an Eagles bet this year when it's an actual pick. I know Chalky's lost a couple. I'm pretty sure Meeker's lost a couple. I've never done it, and I think this is your first time, Jason.
Yeah, it's the first time I have an
No,
Eagles game this year.
You did it week 1,
Who, Jason?
I did.
Tommy, because I had the Packers. You had Eagles.
I don't remember that at
Yeah.
all.
We had 2 head-to-heads
I
that
still
week. You
remember.
won that one, and I won Dallas and Browns. You had Browns, so yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's the only win since bet taking the Eagles as far as when we include them in our picks. Okay, that was episode 136 of Broad Street Hustle. Bringing you another exciting week. I'm your host, Tommy. Have a great night.